Good afternoon, it's Tuesday, January 19. I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. The police have made yet another guns and ammunition seizure at the Freeport Wharf in St. James. The illegal weapons were detected hidden in the panels of a refrigerator during routine checks of barrels and other cargo on Monday. Head of the Area 1 Police Division, Assistant Commissioner Clifford Chambers, spoke with our news center.
This find includes 3 high-powered rifles, 2 handguns, and over 140 assorted ammunition. The investigation is at its infancy stage, and so more information cannot be released at this time.
Now, in a related story, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang has signaled that arrests are coming for at least 2 persons responsible for some of the most recent shipments of illegal guns into the island. The country has been plagued by gun violence, but Dr. Chang says they are making progress in investigations. Kirk Wright reports.
The entire intelligence apparatus of the security forces focus on the gangs and getting the guns.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang speaking with journalists following a tour of the 2 communities in St. James that were devastated by gun violence over the weekend. It's reported that between Friday and Sunday, 25 persons were killed across the island. The homicides include 2 triple murders in separate incidents in St. James and a triple murder in Almond Town in Kingston. The security forces have since increased their presence, but many Jamaicans are questioning the border issue, the flow of illegal guns used in these killings. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says the country can be assured that law enforcers are maintaining vigilance. He turned his attention to the 5 most recent gun finds in the country, including at the Freeport Wharf in St. James. 19 guns and hundreds of assorted rounds were seized.
The leader of the first shipment, Mr. Rooms, is in prison. The leader of the second shipment is on trial at this we speak. He is a known leader of one of the big gangs in this region. It's one of the leaders of one of the other incident will be closing on him very fast. Intel is there, evidence is gathered, and he'll soon be apprehended. And the other 2 are, including the one of the 11th of January, is under intense investigation.
That may bring little comfort to residents in some communities that have been plagued by gang violence. That's because it seems, despite the efforts by the police, the gangsters have no shortage of firepower.
We are maintaining a level of intel operation that is providing information. We are disrupting the flow of guns, but it is coming in large quantities. In addition to that, the anti-gang activity is at its peak as a priority, and we'll have 5 serious investigations ongoing in addition to those who are already in jail. And we'll be closing in at least on 2 of them very quickly.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
In the meantime, calls are once again being echoed for a deeper analysis of what's leading to the spike in the number of murders being committed island-wide. The latest call comes from opposition spokesman on national security, Peter Bunting. This following the bloody weekend in several communities across the island. Now, data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force is that up to January 19, today, there have been 74 murders compared to 61 for the corresponding period last year. O'Shane Masters has that angle.
Blood and mayhem on the nation's streets over the weekend after 25 people were murdered in separate incidents island-wide. It has led to much concern about crime and violence in the country. For the opposition spokesman on national security, a deeper analysis is needed to determine the cause factor. Peter Bunting is therefore urging the police to examine whether there were patterns in the killings or if they were connected. Speaking last night with our news center, Mr. Bunting said the weekend's events must not be left alone, but should be investigated further.
In terms of looking at the pattern of crime and to see whether there are any, what are the likely reprisals and counter reprisals, whether this is, we can look at this weekend as, an isolated random coming together of a number of unconnected incidents, or is it something that's more coordinated and requires a more coordinated response? The typical member of the public won't have the data to be able to come to those conclusions, but we would expect to hear from the Police High Command and the Ministry of National Security.
Mr. Bunting pointed out that up to midnight on Saturday, the murder statistics year-to-date between 2020 and 2021 was in line. Hence, something must have gone horribly wrong for the rampant murder streak to have taken place.
The numbers in themselves don't suggest that there's a crisis. Certainly, this weekend there was an enormous spike, and it's based on the intelligence and the investigative work of the police that we should get a better understanding of what caused this spike. Is it, a random coincidence? Is there something underlying? Is there some coordination of the violence? Are there independent incidents and just happen to occur on this particular weekend? We need to get a better understanding of the context to be able to respond in the appropriate way.
He suggested how this should be achieved by the security forces.
The police investigators will be on the ground. The police have intelligence, they have human intelligence, they have technical intelligence. They by now, 24 hours later or 48 as the case may be, they should have the piecing together a clear picture of what happened and what would be the appropriate response.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have more when you return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security has been summoned to appear before the next sitting of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. Now, this follows damaging reports from the Auditor General over the use of public funds. Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee, Julian Robinson, says this is needed as the Ministry has failed to respond to concerns raised in the annual report of the Auditor General. He said the failure of any government agency to properly account for public funds is of serious concern.
I'm aware of other audit-related matters at that ministry, but I'm dealing specifically with the annual report and in particular the major issues that you have raised, which run into what I would say billions of dollars, and what seems to be, and this is my interpretation and conclusion, a general lack of response to issues that have been raised about the operations of the ministry over a period of 4 years. In fact, I saw one, and I'll have to look back for it, where issues were raised from 2011. So it appears to be systemic problems at this ministry.
New COVID-19 testing requirements are creating even more uncertainty for travelers and airport operators. Chief Executive Officer at MBJ Airports Limited, Shane Monroe, says it's expected there will be further decline in tourist arrival. Prince Moore has the details.
As countries ramp up their COVID-19 testing policies, airport operators are looking for ways to make testing more accessible to meet all entry requirements.
We expect that will affect demand for the U.S. market. They are introducing a requirement to do testing prior to arrival in the United States, and there's some uncertainty in terms of how that will be done in Jamaica, but a lot of effort is being done with the government and with the Ministry of Health and other entities to organize testing and make testing available for passengers.
Chief Executive Officer at MBJ Airports Limited, Shane Monroe, expressed concern that the lack of available testing sites and the high cost might deter visitors.
Of course, we are dealing with mainly tourists and Jamaicans, but we're also competing with other destinations. So when a passenger makes a choice as to where they're going to go on a vacation or where they're going to travel to, you do not want testing to be a deterrent. So we certainly would endorse widely available testing throughout Jamaica at a very reasonable price point.
In a recent interview with our news team, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says His ministry is working to meet the requirements of the US, Canada, and the UK in having returning residents tested before re-entering those countries. Those measures, he says, could be in place by February 1 if all goes well. In the meantime, Mr. Monroe is calling for airport workers to be prioritized for vaccination.
We see airport staff as frontline essential workers. Of course, we expect that the Ministry of Health will prioritize those who are vulnerable and our essential workers, but our airport staff, not just MBJ, we're talking immigration, customs, airline agents, red cap porters. All the airport staff interact with passengers entering this country, and we expect that those at the port of entry would be first in line to be offered the vaccine as well.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And the COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause challenges for economic activity, forcing some businesses to close their doors. The BPO sector is one of those hardest hit and now faces a possible exodus of opportunities to other countries in the region. Herman Green tells us more.
Players in the business process outsourcing (BPO) industry are expressing frustration with the government because of its inability to provide guarantees to prospective clients due to the continuous rollover of short-term extensions for the temporary work-from-home arrangement. Since July 1 last year, 50% of workers in the sector have been operating from home. It's the reason President of the Global Services Association of Jamaica, Gloria Henry, is calling on the government to take decisive action. She says Jamaica could lose out on opportunities to other competitors.
The work can go to the Philippines, it can go to India, because we are providing a service that can be provided anywhere else, in any other areas where they have a global services sector. So it's not just move it to Trinidad or Haiti or Dominican Republic. It can go to the Philippines and India, and they have gone ahead and put policies in place for work at home.
Ms. Henry added that the sector is poised for growth, but that could be hindered if the government doesn't respond to the challenges currently being faced.
It speaks to the remote work requirements that will address issues like equipment use, like data protection policy. It speaks to protecting the customers, the obligations of the workers, and protecting the workers themselves.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
COVID-19 has claimed 3 more lives in Jamaica, pushing the death toll to 329. The Ministry of Health says another 3 deaths are being investigated. Meanwhile, 145 new cases were confirmed in the island on Monday. The country's case count now stands at 14,419. Now, the latest persons to contract COVID-19, their ages range from 1 to 89 years. The Health Ministry says 1 to 87 years old, that should be. Now, the Health Ministry says 108 patients remain hospitalized with the respiratory illness. 11 are in critical condition. Member of Parliament for Central Kingston, Donovan Williams, is hoping that face-to-face classes will resume in the constituency sooner than later. This, he believes, will quickly alleviate the need for devices which are woefully short in his constituency. Now, speaking at a recent handing over of tablets at the Paradise Garden Community Centre, Mr. Williams said online classes cannot substitute for face-to-face classes. Sandy Williams reports.
With more than 70 schools in various communities across the island open for face-to-face classes, more students are now given the chance to fill the education gap caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. But not all communities have that advantage, as there are several other schools that are solely dependent on virtual classes. Some of the affected schools are located in central Kingston. The lack of devices and internet connection have caused some children in the area to have been missing out on their education, something that caught the attention of the police.
During our walkthroughs and our drive-through of the Parade Gardens area, we observed that there were several children, who were on the streets during daylight hours, probably between 9 and 3 o'clock. When we inquired, we were told that they should have been in school at the time, or at least attending virtual classes in the absence of physical face-to-face classes. So we inquired and we were told that some of them said that they don't have any tablets, the majority of them said that they don't have any internet access.
And so the police intervened, which resulted in an initiative at the Paradise Garden Community Center.
The initiative is one where the students will come here to the center, use the tablets for their virtual classes, and then the tablets remain here. They come back the next day and they do the same thing.
A total of 10 tablets were donated to the center, which facilitates more than 200 students on a weekly basis. While supporting the initiative, Member of Parliament for Central Kingston Donovan Williams says it is not ideal for the teaching-learning process. Mr. Williams wants face-to-face classes to resume in his constituency.
The truth is, the online situation, in my view, cannot and should not substitute, take the place of face-to-face. I will say that for the most part, the numbers in Kingston Central have been contained, and we really don't have that kind of difficulty here. And so that is something I will be looking forward to having a resumption of the face-to-face learning, at least on a gradual basis in some of the schools. While we are doing our best through online learning, we are our best to keep pace. It's not the ideal.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
The carnage on the nation's roads since the start of the year is again raising questions about commitments to stem the high yearly death toll. Efforts to keep the number of fatalities for each year below 300 have failed in successive years, which now has the National Road Safety Council looking to technology. But as Herman Green reports, even that looks dismal with the long-standing lack of enforcement.
Hashtag below 300. That has been part of the National Road Safety Council's drive for the past 3 years. But at the end of each period, the statistics reflected dismal failure. 2019 had the highest number of fatalities in 30 years, 440. In 2017, the Jamaica Constabulary Force Traffic and Highway Division and Jamaica National Foundation established a road safety hub promising to address and reduce the numbers. In January 2020, road safety officials declared the situation a crisis, demanding action from the government. The group met with Prime Minister Andrew Holness in an effort to toughen regulations to curb road fatalities. However, January 2021 has started where the previous years ended. 15 people have been killed in road traffic crashes since January 1. So, what, if anything, will officials be doing differently this year to at least keep the fatalities below 300? We put that question to Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones. He insists that a safe system approach will make the difference.
What we have been concentrating on over the years is trying to get road users to change their behavior, primarily. But this new system is more comprehensive.
He says this system will rely on technology. He proposes that a recent research by Dr. Paris Leo Ayi at the Mona Geoinformatics Institute, which identifies areas of frequent speeding and crashes, will be the basis of the system.
And there are some long stretches of road that we know that can cause problems. So we're going to use this kind of technology to help the police to be proactive rather than being reactive. So we're trying to head off problems. So in terms of safe speeds, what happened on early Sunday morning when 3 persons died tragically, we're going to try and put in measures so that people are aware that if you speed on the roads, they're going to get caught.
However, there has been little impact on road indiscipline and fatalities since the launch of the Public Safety and Enforcement Branch PSTEB in August 2018. Dr. Jones is again calling for the implementation of an efficient traffic ticketing system. He says plans are in place for another meeting with government officials for strong action this year. Herman Green, TVJ News.
In news overseas now, in the United States, on the eve of the inauguration, Washington, D.C. is under tight security as Donald Trump spends his last day in office while President-elect Joe Biden prepares for his first. More from the CNN.
Checkpoints, barricades, and up to 25,000 National Guard troops. Washington looks like a war zone on the eve of one of American democracy's most important rights.
What we see in Washington, D.C. is overwhelming forces being deployed to make sure we have a peaceful transfer of power.
On the last full day of his term, President Donald Trump will likely be issuing dozens of pardons and commutations, all as he is set to face a post-presidency legal battle of his own, an impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate.
The people who are going to be the jurors, those 100 senators, are not only witnesses but also victims of the crime.
First Lady Melania Trump issuing a farewell message Monday.
The past 4 years have been unforgettable.
As the Trumps plan to leave Wednesday morning for their Florida home at Mar-a-Lago and skip the historic rites that traditionally mark the transition, including a White House meeting with the new first family. But as Trump departs, Joe Biden will assume office amid unprecedented crises.
I'll speak for Joe and myself in saying that we're going into Wednesday knowing that we're ready to do the work.
The incoming administration says they're ready to take swift action to improve and speed up COVID-19 vaccine distribution, stamping out the virus and bolstering the economy.
We do believe with hard work and with the cooperation and collaboration of the members of the United States Congress that we can get it done.
In sports, Tokyo Olympics organizers say they are not willing to see the event held behind closed doors and that the Games will take place this summer. International Olympic Committee member Dick Pound said recently there could be no guarantees of the postponed 2020 Games going ahead in July 23 rather. Now a spokesman says it could even happen without the need for athletes or spectators to be vaccinated. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. On behalf of the entire team, have a good afternoon.